Everybody talks about certifications. Security Plus, CEH, CISSP, the whole alphabet soup. And don't get me wrong, they help, but certs don't get you hired. Skills do. You can flash your resume all day, but if you can't prove you understand what's actually happening on the wire, in the logs, or between systems, that recruiter is going to move on. So if you're tired of chasing the next exam, hoping it's the one, this is your wake-up call. Welcome to the NodeVerge channel, where we talk about cybersecurity, technology, and self-improvement. I am your host, Jay, and today we'll be walking through the top 10 cybersecurity skills you need that actually matter. The ones that help you land jobs, build trust, and make you dangerous in the best way. Whether you're switching careers, starting from scratch, or just trying to level up without feeling like an imposter, you're in the right place. Because I didn't come from tech. I came from pulling wires as an electrician, not writing code. Now, I'm a senior cyber threat intelligence analyst at JP Morgan & Chase. So if I made it in, you can too. Let's dive in. If you only take one thing away from this video, let it be this. You cannot protect what you do not understand. And what you need to understand first is networking. I'm talking about the bloodstream of the internet. TCP/IP, DNS, subnetting, ports, NAT, firewalls, DHCP, the OSI model, all of it. Because here's the truth. Most cyber attacks are just clever uses of basic network behavior, like DNS hijacking, ARP spoofing, man-in-the-middle attacks, and credential harvesting. If you don't know what normal looks like, you'll never know what abnormal looks like. This is what separates surface level analysts from professionals. You want to work in a SOC? You'll be staring at alerts tied to ports, protocols, and IP traffic all day. And you better know the difference between inbound and outbound traffic, or why port 3389 might be a red flag in an alert, or how DNS tunneling hides data in plain sight. You want to go into red teaming or ethical hacking? Exploits ride on open ports, misconfigured services, and weak segmentation. No networking, no access. Even cloud security. Everyone's rushing into AWS and Azure, but guess what? It's all built on the same networking concepts, just abstracted. And no, you don't need to memorize every RFC or become a Cisco wizard, but you do need to know the basics. What is an IP address? And what is the difference between a public and private IP address? What does a DNS query look like in Wireshark? What does it mean when a port is open versus filtered versus closed? And why would a packet leave your internal network, and how can you trace it back? These aren't just exam questions. These are real world scenarios. This is the language of cybersecurity. If you can't speak it, you won't last long in the room. So take your time, build a home lab, and use tools like Wireshark, Nmap, and Packet Tracer. Read PCAPs, run those scans, break it down. Because once this clicks, everything gets easier. If networking is the bloodline of cybersecurity, Linux is the backbone. And if you're trying to break into the field without it, it's like trying to lift without learning proper form first. Sooner or later, something's gonna break. Here's what you need to know. Most cybersecurity tools are built with Linux in mind. Tools like Nmap, Metasploit, Burp Suite, Zeek, Snort, even Wireshark. They all have Windows versions, yes. Some even work on Mac OS, but they run smoother, faster, and give you more control in Linux. It's where it was designed to live. The deeper you go into cybersecurity, the more you realize Linux is the default. Servers, those come in Linux too. CTFs and labs, Linux. Threat actor infrastructure, definitely Linux. So if you're only comfortable clicking out on Windows, you're limiting what you can do and how far you can go. But here's the good news. You don't need to be a Linux guru. You just need to get comfortable in the command line. So start with the basics. Practice moving through directories. Practice changing file permissions, reading logs, killing and restarting processes, installing packages, editing config files with Vim or Nano. This isn't about memorization. It's about navigation and intuition. You should be able to SSH into a box, look around, and not panic. You should be able to find a log, trace an error, or fix a misconfiguration, even if it takes a few tries. Because when you can operate in a terminal, you stop being just a learner, you become a practitioner. The command line isn't something to be afraid of. It's something to master one small win at a time. So spin up Kali Linux, boot up Ubuntu, install WSL on Windows if that's what you got. Just start. Touch the keys, make the mistakes, learn by doing. Because when the time comes to troubleshoot an incident, nobody's waiting for you to Google how to grep a log file. They're expecting you to move and move with confidence. Before you start chasing tools, before you dive into hacking labs and malware analysis, you need to understand what you're actually protecting and why. Because cybersecurity isn't just about firewalls and 0 days, it's about principles. It's about protecting confidentiality, integrity, and availability. The CIA Triad. This is a lens we look through every single day. Confidentiality, keeping data out of the wrong hands. Integrity, making sure no one tampers with it. Availability, ensuring it's there when it's needed. And every threat, every vulnerability, every headline you read about, it all ties back to one of these being broken. Understanding this foundation helps you see the big picture. Because when a system is vulnerable, it's not just insecure, it's a risk to someone's data, to an organization's mission, or to a customer's trust. And here's where new analysts get stuck. They learn the tools, but not the mindset. They can run Nmap, but they don't know why the exposed port is dangerous. They know what SQL injection is, but not what it impacts from a business perspective. You've got to know how attacks actually happen, why attackers choose certain methods, how vulnerabilities are chained together, and what it means when risk becomes real-world impact. You don't need to know everything, but you do need to think like a defender. So study the basics, like common threats, types of vulnerabilities, how to identify and to prioritize risk, why patch management is more than just updates. It's business protection, because the more you understand the fundamentals, the more value you become in any role on any team. Let's be real. If you don't understand the cloud, you're already behind. Gone are the days where everything lived in one physical data center with blinking lights, locked cages, and on-prem firewalls. Your company's data might be spread across 3 cloud providers, dozens of regions, and with hundreds of services. And guess what? You're expected to help secure it. Here's the thing that most beginners don't realize. Cloud security isn't about knowing how to hack AWS. It's about understanding how the cloud works and how it breaks. Because when breaches happen in the cloud, they're almost never due to advanced exploits. They happen because an S3 bucket is left wide open, an overpermissive IAM policy active, or an API key is hard-coded in a GitHub repo. Remember the Capital One breach? A misconfigured firewall and an SSRF vulnerability in a cloud environment exposed over 100 million customer records. Not because someone was a genius hacker, but because someone didn't configure the cloud properly. So if you're not trying to be a full-time cloud security engineer, you still need to know the landscape. Start with understanding the basics. What is an EC2 instance? What's the difference between S3 and EBS? What does IAM do, and how does privilege work? And just as important, understand shared responsibility. What provider secures versus what you have to lock down. Here's what it comes down to. Cloud makes everything faster and includes mistakes. One misconfiguration can expose terabytes of data in seconds. One unchecked roller policy can give an attacker keys to the kingdom. But if you understand how the cloud services work, if you know where the logs live, what good configurations look like, and how to investigate suspicious access, you instantly become more valuable in every single cyber role. Working in a SOC, you'll be triaging cloud alerts. Threat intelligence, you'll be tracking IOCs tied to cloud workloads. GRC, you'll be writing policies about cloud access and identity. Red team, you'll be simulating attacks against cloud environments. And blue team, you'll be defending them real time. You ever hear someone say logs don't lie? They're not just being dramatic. Logs are like the receipts. They're the evidence, the audit trail. When an incident happens, it's the logs that tell the story. And if you know how to read them, you become a storyteller. Enter the SIEM. That's your security, information, and event management platform. Think of it like your cyber command center, pulling logs from endpoints, servers, firewalls, cloud environments, and giving you a dashboard to see it all. These are tools like Splunk, Elastic, Microsoft Sentinel, IBM QRadar. They all have the same purpose. Take the overwhelming flood of machine data and help you find the signal in the noise. But here's the catch. You have to know what you're looking for. You have to know things like what a normal login event looks like, what a failed authentication spike might mean, what it means when PowerShell runs from an unusual process, how to trace suspicious IPs across multiple log sources, and how to pivot across datasets to build a timeline. That's log analysis, and it's one of the most hireable skills in cybersecurity, because when you're in the SOC or detection role, this is your daily grind. Triage alerts, review logs, tell stories. But don't let that intimidate you. Start small. Spin up a free Splunk trial or use TryHackMe SOC rooms. Play with logs from your own system using Sysmon or Event Viewer. Even analyzing your own web traffic in Wireshark is a great starting point. The keys to develop your eye. You want to start recognizing patterns. Normal behavior versus suspicious behavior. What time an attacker moved in and how far they got before they stopped. Because here's the truth. Tools will always change, but the ability to analyze and interpret logs will always be in high demand. Cybersecurity isn't just about defending systems, it's about understanding attackers. And that's where threat intelligence and OSINT comes in. If you want to stay ahead of this game, you have to learn how to think like people trying to break in. Threat actors aren't random. They have patterns, preferences, and tactics. They use the same malware families, C2 infrastructure, phishing kits, over and over again. And the better you get at recognizing these patterns, the faster you can connect the dots. Threat intelligence gives defenders an edge. It's more than just IOCs and hash values. It's about understanding adversary behavior, like Who's targeting your sector? What tools and techniques are they using? How do they move once they're inside a system? What does their recon and process look like? What infrastructure are they spinning up before an attack? And that's where OSINT, open source intelligence, becomes your superpower. Because guess what? Most attackers leave breadcrumbs all over the internet. You can learn to find things like exposed servers in Shodan, metadata leaks in public documents, suspicious domains, GitHub repos leaking credentials, social engineering targets in LinkedIn. You just need curiosity, Google, and the right mindset. And that mindset, the ability to dig, pivot, and ask questions, that's what makes threat analysts different from regular analysts. So whether you're blue team, red team, or somewhere in between, understanding threat intelligence will make you sharper, more proactive, and way more valuable. Let me be clear. You don't need to be a programmer to work in cybersecurity. But if you could write a little script, you just became 10 times more useful. Because here's what nobody tells you in the beginning. A lot of cybersecurity work is repetitive. Parsing logs, renaming files, extracting hashes, cleaning indicators, converting timestamps, interacting with APIs. And every time you do that manually, you're wasting time that could be saved with a few lines of code. That's where scripting comes in. Not software engineering, not building an app, just simple functional scripts that help you automate the boring stuff. Start with Python. It's beginner friendly, well documented, and widely used in cyber tools. Then go for quick, dirty automation in Linux environments. You will learn how to do things like read and write files, loop through data, parse text to regex, make API calls to things like VirusTotal or Have I Been Pwned, automate common CLI tasks, or change command with logic. Because the moment you say, yeah, I wrote a script to handle that, you instantly stand out. Managers love it, teammates appreciate it, and interviewers remember it. And trust me, the first time you save your own time with a script, you'll never look back. Start small. Automate a log parser. Build a script to ping your top 10 IPs. Write a tool that searches for indicators in a directory of a text file. Scrape your own public IP and geolocate it, and print the results. It doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to work. And once you realize that, scripting becomes your secret weapon. Let me tell you something nobody puts on the job description. Cybersecurity is a people-first problem. You could be the most technically gifted person on your team, but if you can't communicate what's happening in clear, confident language, you'll be overlooked. Here's why this matters. You'll need to explain risk to people who don't speak cyber. You'll be asked to brief stakeholders who've never logged into a firewall. You report incidents to leadership, sometimes under pressure, in real time. You might even have to testify, present, or write a report that gets read by legal, HR, or the board. And when that moment comes, they won't care about your acronyms. They'll only care about clarity. Can you translate technical issues into business impact? Can you stay calm when everyone else is panicking? Can you give direction, ask the right questions, and get buy-in across departments? That's what separates cyber professionals from keyboard warriors. Communication doesn't mean public speaking, it means being understood. So start practicing now. Summarize something you learned today in a tweet or LinkedIn update. Practice reporting incidents like you're explaining it to a manager. Ask for feedback on how you present ideas. Learn to adapt your tone for executives, devs, legal, or IT. Don't just know what happened, explain why it matters. You don't have to be a poet, but you do need to be precise. In cybersecurity, the person who can bridge the gap between technical depth and business context, that's the person who gets promoted. You can't learn cybersecurity like a checklist because the threats, they don't follow the rules. This field changes daily. You've got to figure out another way. That's why critical thinking and curiosity matter the most amongst any skill on this list. You need to ask questions like, why did this alert trigger? What else happened around this event? What would I do if I were the attacker? Is this a symptom or the actual root cause? Where does this lead if I follow this trail? Because cybersecurity isn't about having all the answers. It's about being relentless enough to find them. And curiosity, that's your engine. It's what keeps you learning when there's no one telling you what to do. It's what pushes you to dig deeper than the documentation. It's what helps you see what others miss. Every great cybersecurity pro I've ever met, whether blue team, red team, or GRC, had one thing in common. They didn't just check boxes. They chased the why. So start training your mindset now. When something breaks, don't just restart it, investigate. When you see an alert, don't just silence it, trace it. Read incident reports, threat write-ups, CVEs, and ask yourself, how would I detect this? Play CTFs, do try hack me. Be curious, be annoying, be the person who wants to understand. Because when stuff hits the fan, it's not always the most experienced person who figures it out. It's the one who keeps asking good questions. Here's the skill that most people sleep on. Not just doing the work, but showing it. You could be grinding in the labs every night, reading blogs, watching videos, solving problems, but if no one sees that effort, you stay invisible. In cybersecurity, visibility isn't ego, it's strategy. And the best way to get noticed, especially when you're new, is by building in public. That means sharing your home lab projects, posting what you learned on LinkedIn or Twitter, documenting Try Hack Me or Hack the Box write-ups, writing a blog post about challenges that you accepted and finished, uploading a Python script to GitHub, even if it's simple, making a short video explaining how tools work. This isn't about clout. It's about proof. Proof that you're putting in those reps. Proof that you're serious about learning. Proof that you're not just copying and pasting, you're actually learning. Because here's the truth. Hiring managers remember people who show up. Your peers refer people they've seen putting in the work. Mentors reach out to people who are actively growing. And that post, you're too nervous to post because it's not perfect, that might be the one that lands you your first opportunity. So stop waiting until you're ready. Start sharing what you're learning as you're learning it. Even if you only have 5 followers, even if you just document your first home lab, even if you feel like no one's watching you, because eventually they will be. And when they look you up and see a trail of effort, consistency, and growth, they'll know you're not just doing this to get a job, you're trying to build a career, and that's the difference. So that is the end of the video. Those are the top 10 most desirable skills that hiring managers are looking for, and you don't need to master them all today. This isn't about perfection, it's about building momentum, and that's what separates the ones who are trying to break into cyber and those who don't make it. It's not genius, it's not luck, it's one lab at a time, one script at a time, one uncomfortable conversation, one blog post, one question asked in the community at a time. That's the work that adds up. So here's what I want you to do next. Pick a skill from this video, just one, and go deeper into that topic this week. Join a community and get feedback. Share what you're learning. Build, document, repeat. Build, document, repeat. You don't need to sprint, you just need to start walking with intention. And if you're serious about that journey, I'm here walking with you. So if this video gave you clarity or any motivation, hit that like button and comment below which skill you're working on first. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And if you've got questions or want to share your story, I'm in the comments with you. We're building something real here. Let's grow together. Thank you for watching.